Hello, hi. Welcome to Wonderslut. My name is Rebecca Crosby. I am the host of this really fun show. I've been doing this for 2 years. What a gift it has been to me. I love learning things. I love talking to all the people that are in the conversations, doing shit with their life that is transformative. It's just transformative. There's no other word that describes my guests than transformative. They are changing people's lives on a micro level. I love it so much. My guests have been so fascinating, from mediums to psychologists to authors, therapists, I mean, quantum healers, so many amazing people that have just held this space with me and had really interesting conversations about what it looks like to be a human being and how we're meant to evolve and grow beyond the template that we were given of this really detrimental patriarchal society. Not to blame men. So today, that is what I'm talking about, essentially, is men. I have been doing some research. I'm live on TikTok right now, so I keep switching between my podcast platform and my phone to make sure I'm not missing any important content. Um, so I have been doing some research on the idea of forgiveness, and here's why. I have been single for, I guess, 8 years. I was married twice. I have two boys by my second husband, and I'm not really sure why that is a necessary detail to what I'm about to say, but being a single woman in her 40s has been challenging, especially if you're the kind of woman that likes to dissect emotional landscapes. There's not a lot of men that like to traverse in that field. So largely, I have been kind of a minefield for men. I've made them very uncomfortable on dates. I've had multiple men walk out on me. Um, not because I'm intentionally poking at them. I'm just insanely curious. I'm not trying to be judgmental or hateful. Um, but their triggers couldn't really tolerate my intensity and my curiosity. So it is fine. It just means that I'm not for them. At the time, it was very hurtful, and it added to my disgust for men. Um, but really, we're just two people trying to make it work in this shared space, right? It wasn't my intention to be ugly. But what has happened is that I have become kind of a single, solitary woman, and I put in quotes, man hater. I've been called that multiple times especially since I started this podcast. And, my history is that I got started on TikTok largely because I was walking through my own um, disconnection from this married boyfriend that I was wrapped up in, and trying to unravel that situation. And so I became, the other woman that was speaking out about my experience as being the other woman. He was a college boyfriend that I was deeply in love with most of my life. And so I just assumed that it would just play out that way and we would end up running off into the sunset together. It did not work out that way. I went no contact for 69 days on TikTok. I have since written a book about that experience and all the things that I learned about myself. And so I had a really bad taste in my mouth about men. And of course, affairs largely are centered around men and, their secrecy and all the ways in which they get caught up in sexual deviance. Is that a word? Deviances, dalliances, I don't know, whatever the word is. And, women have suffered quite a bit at the hands of men. And so I was kind of on that train for a really long time, and uh, really not great. It ended up not being great because I I since have gone into this, like, the technology of being a human being, and it's not about spirituality necessarily from my perspective. It is about evolution and how we are created in our biological structures to evolve. And so when I reflected on my hangups about men, my judgment of them, my disgust, my repulsion, my hatred, my fear, my disappointment, I had to look at my own landscape, because people that you hate are the ones that have the most lessons for you. I believe that if we are all interconnected, interdependent in this society, that we are all connected. So what happens to one happens to another. We have lived multiple lifetimes, in my opinion. I think the idea of reincarnation has been studied. There is plenty of research out there. There are peer-reviewed studies about reincarnation. So I think it's fair to say that our souls come back over and over again for whatever reason to learn lessons of evolution, so that as a collective, we can collectively evolve to the next stage, which I believe is moving from the 3D world, which is full of judgment and division and duality and tangible egoic structures, into the 5D world where judgment does not exist. And we are simply human beings that are living together, understanding how interdependent, interconnected we are, and everything that we do affects the energy of everything in the world. It is like the butterfly effect all the time. And we are not ignorant to it in the 5D world, okay? That's what I believe Jesus did when he ascended, was he just ascended consciously, in his consciousness, to a different realm. That's what I believe happened. So if we're going to get there, let me just back up a little bit and tell you more of what got me to this place. I was on Facebook and I saw a post by someone that I deeply respect and admire, and loved everything about it. I thought it was very true. He was speaking out a bit about structures of power and how detrimental they have been to other people, and specifically pointing the finger at white men, white supremacy, white whatever. And then I listened to some other things and they kind of aligned with the same message. And it was like, all of these people that I deeply respect and admire, that are incredible human beings, have done a lot of work around what it looks like to move through the world as a kind, empathetic person. But their theme was, there is someone in power that is to blame for the structures of the world. And so I have started thinking through that idea. And it made me real uncomfortable, because what I know to be true about evolution and about being a human being is that if we are all connected, we are simultaneously the oppressor of someone and simultaneously the oppressed. And this need to point the finger outside of ourselves to someone else is what has kept us in these loops of stagnation and destabilizing infrastructures. That our need to find a scapegoat for how we behave in the world, and the pain that we hold, and the ways that we move through the world, is not an external thing. You cannot control anything outside of yourself. You can only control yourself. We are created that way. We are specifically, uniquely designed in a way that we are unlike any other human being that has ever walked the earth and ever will walk the earth, period. Nobody has the same DNA that we have. Nobody has the same neural pathways. Nobody has the same schema, the same memories, the same thoughts, the same feelings. Nobody. You are so unique in the structure of the entire universe. Nobody has ever been you, will ever be you. And yet, we all move through the world with the same interconnected energy. And what we do affects everything around us. So, why are we built that way? And why also have we been so encouraged to look outside of ourselves for the answer to everything? Why are we stuck in these loops of blame and shame and guilt and pain and disconnection and scapegoating one another and scapegoating systems and people? Like, we need to identify a perpetrator for some reason, because it's got to be someone's fault that pain exists, right? It has to be someone's fault that this happened to me. And I am not saying that there's not accountability for people's behavior. Absolutely, there is. We should for sure hold people accountable for the harm that they're doing. But accountability is different than blame. So I went on this dive on ChatGPT about I need actual evidence, like researched papers that have been peer reviewed, studied, and all the things about why the structure of forgiveness and not having a scapegoat is so necessary to the biology of our evolution. And what it returned to me was so fascinating, that the very cells of our bodies, and I've said this so many different times in so many different ways, but this idea of forgiveness, I believe, is the only way for us to move forward as a species, is that it removes judgment and duality out of the very cells of your body, which means that they are cohesively responding to one another, that our bodies were not created to hold resentment, that resentment creates disease in our cells. Resentment turns on disease in our DNA, and our bodies that would not normally express, and our genes that would not normally express disease. You resent something, you're turning on a gene that is wired for disease. Isn't that fascinating? That if you can live your life from a lens of just complete acceptance, joy, there is no shame. You don't live in a duality, in a world of duality. You're just like accepting whatever it is, however you show up in the world, however other people show up in the world. You're just accepting it with great curiosity and awareness and information, and integrating it into your light body. And that changes whether your body expresses a disease gene or not. Isn't that so fucking fascinating? I just love it so much. It brings me so much joy. So I asked ChatGPT, please tell me if there were no victims or perpetrators in the world, what would our world look like? And basically, this is what it said was, you would be moving through the world with curiosity instead of judgment. If you or someone you loved or knew behaved in a way that was harmful to someone, instead of shaming them and exiling them and punishing them, you would instead get real curious about their behavior and start investigating it and bring them into a place of healing and cohesion. You know that something is fragmented in them because they did the thing. So the perpetrator is not identified as a perpetrator. He's just a human being expressing some part of himself that is fragmented, that needs to be reunited and integrated into the whole of his person or their person. So it reminded me of that, like in ancient tribes. I think I read this once, I don't know, in some book, maybe Food of the Gods by Terence McKenna, that they used to bring people into healing circles when they did something. Like if there was a thief in the community or in the tribe, they would bring them into a healing circle and collectively heal them, because they knew there was a fragment in the body that needed to be repaired or that needed to be made aware. Nobody was judging the person doing the thing. They were like, oh, there is like a lack of cohesion in the system. And how can we, as a collective, heal this impairment? And just let that sink in. What we have done in our society is so sad. It just like makes me want to just cry all the time. Especially, I know quite a few people that have been put in prison for things that, drugs, alcohol, manslaughter, theft, whatever it is. And they spend this extended time in prison. And usually they come out very broken, more broken than they were when they went in. And instead of, as a society, taking those people, we're all perpetrators, okay? We all fuck up. That's the fascinating part of the whole thing, is that every infraction that you experience in your life causes a fragment in the collective. It causes a fragment in your own soul. It causes a fragment in the collective. So we are all on the slaughter table. We are all having to be brought before the judge all the time. Every time we move through the world, every time you speak something that's not true, every time you say something that is not authentic to your soul, you're causing the same harm as the person who stole or killed or drove drunk or whatever it is. We are all contributing to this fracture in the collective. And yet, in this society, we love to single out those who do these really bad things, in quotes, right? What if, instead of imprisoning them and pointing the blame at them and singling them out without resource, without understanding the behavior, what if we just collectively started healing our wounds? I believe that's the world that we're heading towards. I believe that is the next stage of evolution. And I think those who are not on board with this are going to get left behind. I think that will be the great rapture of people being left behind on earth, or those that are full of judgment and condemnation for other people, that are not understanding that what happens to one happens to all, that stay in these loops of victim and perpetrator and looking outside of themselves for the answer. The answer has always been internal. My friend sent me this meme this morning. Tracy, I think you were just on here. I love you so much. And it said, it had this picture of a throne that had God on it. It was all like, there were cobwebs, like it had been abandoned. And it said, something like, no longer here, look within. I'm like, yes. Oh my God. Isn't that the answer? We are the answer. We're the answer. We are the ones that are moving the world towards evolution. So I think forgiveness is a necessary step to this. Radical forgiveness of ourselves and other people. Radical acceptance in every moment. We hate ourselves so much. And I'm speaking from my own personal lens, is we have been encouraged to hate ourselves. We have been encouraged to shame ourselves. We've been encouraged to look outside of ourselves for the answer. We've been encouraged to stay stuck in these loops of, I have to push harder. I have to try harder. I have to do the thing to be better. That there's always something missing in us, some piece of lack that we do. I don't know that makes sense, but we're always lacking something. We're never quite there. We're never quite whole. We're never quite complete. We're never quite at peace. because we've been implanted with this structure of patriarchy that keeps us in these loops of constant force and aggression and push and grind, and you have to work hard to earn love. You have to work hard to be worthy. You have to work hard to earn your value. You have to work hard to get people to love you. You have to work hard for money. You have to work hard for value. Did I say that already? You have to work hard for someone to see you as significant and beautiful and whole. And we do that internally. I feel it in myself every day with every decision that I make, every thought that I have. I was walking in the fucking park this morning. It's beautiful. There were birds and butterflies and the wind and the leaves are changing, and it was so gorgeous. And yet in my spirit, I felt like this unsettling of I am not good enough. I'm not good enough because I'm not at a job behind a desk right now. I'm not acceptable because I'm walking in the park. I need to hurry up and finish this walk so that I can get started with my day and be productive. And then I was like, no, Rebekah, relax into this moment. And I just breathed all over my body, and I just let that, you are worthy and significant and whole and valuable, just as you are in every moment of the day, whether you are doing anything or not. So that grind of living in this system of being constantly discontent with who you are, constantly discontent with how you show up in the world, constantly striving to earn something, it is an illusion. It's an illusion that you will never find. It's an illusion that you will never achieve because you cannot achieve it. There is no achieving it. There is just accepting it. The law of the universe is that you are whole and complete just as you are, unconditionally loved just as you are in this very moment, regardless of what you have done, regardless of what you look like, regardless of how much money you make, regardless of anything. Jesus, just because you exist, the very cells of your body are waiting for you to get with it, to accept that story instead of the bullshit that you've been fed your whole life, that you're separate from God, that you have to earn salvation, that you have to earn love, that you have to earn entrance into the kingdom of heaven. Heaven is here now, in this very moment. Heaven and hell simultaneously exist. So which one are you going to choose? It is all about your perception. Which lens do you want to look through? Do you want to look through the lens of not being enough and having to strive to earn salvation and prove that you're lovable and stay stuck in the grind and hating on yourself and other people and disconnection and shame and guilt and division and hate, repulsion, disgust for other people, and scarcity and lack, fear, control? That is the lens that we've been given, but we get to change it. Now, we're the owners of our lives. Nobody's coming to save us. It is on us. There is not a perpetrator. There is not a victim. Those are just illusions. I'm going to read you what ChatGPT said about this because I thought it was so fascinating, and I don't think that I can put it in a more succinct way. So I said, talk to me about why forgiveness for ourselves and all our seeming perpetrators is the only way forward towards evolution and connection as a species. So evolution, I'm sure I've explained this before, but evolution happens when like bonds to like. So you have to be connected in order to move to the next level. As human beings, it's love is necessary if we're connected. Love and acceptance without judgment is the next stage of evolution, because we are higher conscious beings. We've evolved with these brains that are very fascinating. We're the only beings who are aware of ourselves. And so our next step of evolution is we have to be connected in order to evolve. So this is what it said: forgiveness is not a moral nicety. It's a biological, spiritual, and evolutionary necessity. When we hold resentment, the nervous system stays in a low grade of state of war. The body can't tell the difference between an ancient betrayal and a present danger. Cortisol, adrenaline, and inflammatory markers hum beneath the skin. We age faster, we sleep less, our capacity for empathy narrows, all because we hold resentment. Forgiveness interrupts that loop. It signals safety to the body. It rewires the brain towards openness, creativity, and connection. From a spiritual perspective, which is the technology of being a human, forgiveness dissolves illusion, the illusion that there is a me entirely separate from you, the illusion that harm exists outside the tapestry of learning. When we forgive, we stop reinforcing duality. There's not a victim and a villain. There's not right and wrong. And we begin to see the interdependence of all experience. Every act of cruelty carries ignorance at its root. And ignorance is only cured by awareness. Forgiveness is awareness without judgment. It transforms pain into information, anger into fuel, memory into wisdom. Collectively, this is how our species evolves. As long as we define ourselves by grievance, we repeat the same hierarchies of domination and fear. Empires crumble, but their psychology remains until someone refuses to mirror it. Forgiveness is that refusal. It does not mean forgetting. It means metabolizing the poison so we do not pass it on. Connection is a natural consequence. When we release blame, we create a field where empathy and responsibility can coexist. In that field, dialogue replaces defense, curiosity replaces contempt, and love, unromantic, unflinching love, becomes the organizing principle of life. To forgive is not to condone, it is to evolve beyond reactivity. It is to remember that every being, even the broken ones, are fragments of the same consciousness trying to find its way back to wholeness. Forgiveness is how God remembers itself through us. Isn't that fucking fantastic? So there are no perpetrators. So next time, there are like small steps that we can all take to get ourselves out of this idea that there's a victim and a perpetrator. Oh shit, I forgot that I was still recording a podcast. Hi, hello. I'm there. Let me look at you instead of up here. Without the victim and perpetrator idea, we are just like human beings trying to make it work. So if you're upset by, say, the number of people that are sexually assaulted on dates, specifically women, this is a statistic. It's an incredibly sad statistic, but it is what it is. It exists. It is a thing. So if you just look at it as information, what does this say about men? It says that they are broken, they are shamed, they are singled out for nefarious behavior, that they are largely acting out this role of playing the dominant perpetrator for some reason. They've been told that that is how their nervous system is meant to show up in the world. Everybody responds from a place of like, this feels good in my body, so I'm going to make that decision. And if it causes harm, it just means that you've been trained to believe that that behavior will benefit you. It protects you for whatever reason. So if you're the perpetrator in that situation, you've been encouraged to be the perpetrator somewhere along the way, like that. You learned that protected you from harm, from being, I don't know, getting your heart broken, for whatever it is. So when we can stop that behavior early on in childhood, I think that's where it all starts. So really, it's like a call to all of us to take the shame out of parenting. I think that would be very beneficial to society. Let's just start there. Anytime you're around a child, speak love and acceptance over them, not hatred, not division, not shame, especially not shame. I don't even believe that punishment is a thing. I think that we should always be asking them to be inquisitive about their internal landscape. Why did you make that decision? Can you imagine if emotional intelligence was taught from the time they were in kindergarten on? Like it is, and I think they are starting to teach this, but identifying specific emotions and then why did let how did you behave because you felt that way, and why do you think you did that, and then helping the child be more curious about their own behavior through this lens of, we're not judging you, we're not going to put you in a timeout and shame you and shun you from the group for doing the thing, because we're all fucking perpetrators. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, whatever the fuck that means. Sin is just like an illusion of separation that doesn't exist. But we've all done things that we don't prefer, that we would rather not do again. And so shame does not encourage you to correct the behavior and come back into the tribe. It encourages you to hide. And when you hide, I mean, you can see what is happening. That is why men are sexual deviants. That's why they sexually assault. That is why they are in prison. It is because they're hiding who they are from society, and it creates monsters. We're just creating monsters instead of addressing the issue head on and being like, what does this say about you? Let's get real curious about how your nervous system has been trained to behave, and tracing it back to the time in which you felt safe and that behavior kept you safe. I just went on this really uncomfortable investigation about why I continually seek out unavailable people. And it was because at some point along the way, that protected me from heartache. And so I got used to that behavior over and over again. And it became a protection. And then it became a pathology. And then it became this thing that here I am in my 40s trying to undo the thing that I have learned since I was a child to do, that thing would protect me. But it wasn't healthy for me, but my nervous system was trained to find safety in that. So now I'm having to say to myself, when I'm in situations with actually healthy men who respect me and are emotionally available for me, I have to tell myself they are safe. We are safe. Nobody's going to eat you. You're not going to die. We're just retraining our brain to what it looks like to be a healthy human being. So I think that's the way forward. Maybe, hopefully we're teaching that in our schools. I don't know. Is that a thing? Just teach it. Hopefully we start teaching it to our children. The lady that I interviewed, the podcast that came out on Monday, Dr. Tina Sellers, she's written a book about shameless parenting. And she said she has quite a few adults who buy the book because they are reparenting themselves to live shameless life. Yes, breath works too. Absolutely. Oh my God, I spent so much time doing breath work yesterday. Sorry, squirrel. I just saw a comment that I'm commenting on. I'm doing a podcast. Okay, focus, Rebecca. Yes, we're just like energetic beings who have been trained to find comfort in some detrimental things sometimes. So we just have to retrain ourselves, reparent ourselves into shameless existence, into understanding that I chose this thing for a reason. This felt safe to me. This is what I know. This is all the things in my life added up to this thing making sense for me in that moment, whatever it looks like. And if we could just accept the behavior, look at it with tenderness, compassion, and forgiveness, we can reintegrate our bodies into a state of wholeness. That is the journey. That is how we evolve. That is how we collectively come together, is to extend forgiveness. Stop pointing the fingers at all the people that you think that have done you wrong, because they were a gift actually for your soul to correct itself, to integrate it so you can become, I mean, you're already whole. You don't have to do anything, but we believe that we're fragmented. So it's all just acceptance. We're just meant to accept who we are at all times with all the things. And that is a really infuriating and uncomfortable way to live your life. People get so angry at me when they come at me with something that I've done that hurt their feelings. And my response is, well, thank you for giving me the information. And I hope that you also dissect the behavior so that you can find out why that upsets you. Because I'm just living my damn life. Of course, I'm feel sorrow for you experiencing pain, and also pain has so much information in it. It's put there for you to evolve, for you to know where you need to shine the light on the parts of you that have been told that they're not worthy. That's all this is. Just like a daily investigation into the parts of you that need to be brought into the light. That's what we're doing. We're just walking each other home. Nobody has the answer for you. You have the answer for yourself. Only you know how you're supposed to move through the world. Only you. And the answer is love. Just cover every part of yourself with love and acceptance that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. Full stop. You don't have to add or subtract anything. Let's just do this together. We can do this together. We can rebuild this world that we have all contributed to living in division. We've all contributed to it. And until we individually stop the thing from continuing, it's not going to ever change, because we all have a personal responsibility to evolve and to cover each other with love and forgiveness. Love and forgiveness. There is no perpetrator. There is no victim. We're all in this together, unified, collectively walking each other home. Don't forget who the fuck you are. Bye.